on part 12 now. Just want to make sure I'm positioned so I can see the recording time, all this junk. And I believe when we last left off, we accused Karen Cat of being the masked mystery thief, having access to masks for other disguises, using a mask to disguise himself, to disguise the victim, to disguise the headless corpse as the victim, shooting the headless corpse, donning the mask to attack Nils, Fate getting cut in half. All that which came out to be true. Which I guess I'm surprised that all came out to be true. Although I'm used to playing dude with the mask cases who likes to subvert the absurd sounding explanation. But in this case, with all the other magical elements, it works and justified being so kinda wild and complicated, as ultimately confusing the court, confusing the prosecutor, to the point where he actually cut off his own memories. Come again? I see your facts. I've identified all the causalities, all the casualties, and the number of alive humans checks out. Oh, we went a step beyond that. Where the whole BR1 incident was to smuggle someone out and smuggle someone else in. That doesn't necessarily mean everyone in this number is still the same person. What are you trying to suggest? If somebody was taken out through the breach, well, another person enters through it, the number of people inside the town would stay the same. It's possible somebody wasn't removed, but replaced. Nonsense! Who would have replaced them? Well, who do we know lived outside the walls? Well, what? There's a possibility someone from outside is within the walls? It's like having it backwards. Might not have been true after all. If all this was done so the outcast could infiltrate the town, it all makes sense. They obviously could not keep this person alive. She could have given it away easily. Objection! How is that any sort of plausible? Oh, that's not the only thing it explains. Think about the incident. Why did they break both the wall and the barrier? They just wanted to let them in to create chaos. Breaking the barrier would have been enough. Slicers can actually easily hack through the walls if given some time. And haunters, well, they could just walk right through. Yet they didn't just split the barrier, but also the entire wall. Objection! I could use that same argument against you. According to you, the sole point was to let the outcast infiltrate our town. If that were true, why break the barrier too? It would have been much safer to just do the switch without any of them around. Objection! Not so fast. They needed the whole chaos for a very good reason. After all, they had to kill a person and discreetly take them outside. By letting them in, they had a perfect excuse for a dead body. Objection! But that's still ridiculous! So you're suggesting the outcast is inside the walls right now, and the dead body belonged to someone else who was taken outside to fool the body count. As I said, it's a pretty good reason for why this person would have needed to die back then. It also makes our motive stronger. After all, Mr. Ronas was not only looking into the breach incident, but also into the outcast. Why would he suddenly investigate the outcast if there wasn't some connection? And if the outcast is inside, that was definitely all the more reason to kill Mr. Ronas before he figured out too much. So, just let me confirm this. You suggest the outcast is inside. Not only that, you additionally suggest they masterminded this whole incident. Sure. This is starting to come together. I'll admit the dead body dying exactly 3 months ago is a little strange. And this would explain some strange actions Mr. Cat took. But the rest of that is complete speculation. Even if you call it good speculation, it's speculation nonetheless. Well, the trial is over. Can't we just give this some thought? Just because the trial is over, you are not free to waste our time. You might think it sounds more plausible than the alternatives, but in the end we don't know. We don't really know anything about why this woman was killed. Making up a scary story won't do us any good. If you can't give us a better reason to assume the outcast was involved in this murder, I'm afraid the reasonable step is to look into it, but take no immediate action. Mr. Justice, this is not a possibility to be ignored. A truth is needed. Is an outcast inside my safe haven or not? Your Honor, while I admit this is important to look into, I do not think it would be the wisest move to jump to conclusions. There are already enough baseless rumors circulating. We don't need another one. Maybe there is a good reason to assume the outcast had some active involvement in this murder? There is none. First off, it is clear that the outcast is not Mr. Cat himself. After all, Mr. Cat very clearly has a spell, or nothing in this murder would have worked. In addition, there has been no proof so far that Mr. Cat wasn't working alone. We found plenty of proof the outcast was involved, though. And without poison only the outcast had knowledge of, this wouldn't have worked either. It all took place right at their hideout. Clearly there's some connection there.
Objection!
And while that is true, it does not prove that they had anything to do with this. As you've shown, it was entirely possible to carry out the murder plan alone. We're chasing after a phantom. There's no secret accomplice or hidden mastermind here. Things couldn't just be easy for once, huh? Proof that Mr. Cat was working together with someone else. Does that even exist? I mean, I've shown the crime was technically possible to carry out by a single person. My money would be on... Though thinking about it, something's bothering me. Could he really have... He'd had to have set up the witnesses. Which means that one of our witnesses has to be involved. Defense believes that there's a strong case for Mr. Cat having an accomplice. I mean, it's gotta be Talia, right? There's one thing that happened that night that really shouldn't have been a thing without one. Is that so? I hope you're not merely saying this without proof. And tell us, what happened that heavily suggests an accomplice? Good question.
Take that!
Okay. One of the witnesses, Talia. I assume Talia or Maxwell would have happened. I'm an idiot. Seriously, how the heck did I just gloss over that? This is the case where a random teenage girl picks up trash from the street. It turns out to be relevant evidence. I suppose at some point I just stopped considering the probability of it all. No, that's no excuse. Will the defense stop brooding and present the proof they supposedly have? Sure, though I'm a little surprised nobody else noticed either. You see, the current case is possible, but relies on a massive coincidence. Tell me, was that really the best location to prepare a contraption that relies on a random passerby? What What are even the chances a witness would conveniently drop by just the right place? And at the right time? This wasn't just any street after all. This was outside town where no man walks. Yet it happened. Do you really think nobody would leave town for more than 5 months? Just for 2 separate parties to leave at exactly the same night and end up in the same place? I'm sorry, but that's beyond an unlikely coincidence. But that's too much for a plain man like me. A plain man like me couldn't have possibly known. Mr. Cat couldn't have banked on this to happen unless he had an accomplice controlling what those other witnesses are doing. You're right. I'm not sure how we just glossed over that. We were getting too excited figuring out everything else that we didn't even think about that. It was challenging enough to keep track of whether Mr. Cat's actual actions that night made sense. So I did not reconsider whether his expectations of the witnesses' actions were fully consistent. Well, it's not like they contradicted it. Still, I'm sure you get the massive convenient contrivance here. Without an accomplice, this would simply be too much. In that case, is the naming of the accomplice possible? It should be. It's gotta be Talia, right? The more I think about it, there's really only one person it can be. This person must have been the accomplice. It's gotta be Talia.
Take that!
Simple. It couldn't have been Mr. Maxwell. He truly believed they were headed east. In other words, he had no knowledge Miss Porter actually tricked him into going west. And there's the crime itself. I mean, it depends on how much he knew. But as an accomplice, it kind of makes no sense just to witness the deception yourself. And I somehow doubt he could have believed in it as strongly as he did if that was the case. Certainly, to truthfully state he saw the victim fly if he knew it was a trick is impossible. And with Mr. Maxwell ruled out, that means Miss Porter. She has to be an accomplice. I mean, in theory, you could have just been a supplemental accomplice to just say, okay, take her here. But then, even he was honestly tricked into going east, so there's no way, right? Only she could have manipulated things so that Mr. Maxwell was in the right place at the right time. This is a serious accusation, my child. Consequences are a possibility if it is taken too far. I fully understand. Talia, you've been acting strange since yesterday, too. You couldn't be hiding something. I mean, of course you could, but actually she could. A lot of things, probably. I mean, yeah. Quite a lot of everything. Miss Talia Porter, please step forward once again. Am I in trouble? You've heard the accusation. Whether you are will depend on these next few minutes. You know, Linus, I'm honestly surprised. Getting me fined? All that stuff? That's all in good fun. But this? Didn't think you'd go this far. I do what's needed. Needed for what, I wonder? To satisfy your own obsession? Because let's not get this wrong. At this point, you're clearly obsessed. You went to reckless lengths to get all the evidence you needed. Now you keep all this going even though the trial is over. And for what? Just to satisfy your own curiosity. This is for the truth. And the truth you will get. I wonder what to do then, once there's no longer a need to keep going. I guess only then I get to see why you were really doing this. Only once you can no longer hide behind that convenient excuse. Am I doing the villain part right? What do you think? Pretty okay performance. Hard to tell if she's actually mad at me. She probably is, though. Somewhere deep down. She's just masking it through several layers of sarcasm and feigned anger. Are you quite done fooling around? Hey, might be the only fun left for me, you know? I mean, isn't that pretty much what you're all doing right now? To kill time, too? Just fooling around? Witness, I'm about to ask you 2 very important questions. I'm trembling. No sarcasm, please. It hurts. You have been accused of being, at the very least, accomplice to murder. On top of that, the possibility has been raised that you might be the outcast. Oh man, this is going to be good. As such, I have to ask you these questions, and have you answer them truthfully. And if I refuse... And if she refuses, Your Honor? Citizen of Safe Haven ought to be treated equally and fairly. However, these are questions no innocent people are unable to answer. Therefore, honesty, it is in her best interest. You can't answer any question properly, can you? Miss Porter, any more disrespect toward the Great Guardian, and we may as well skip the questions. Right, just do your thing already. Talia, it'd be such a shame if you're involved in this. It was hard to get this far. Starting over would be. But figuring out what really happened here is more important. I'll be starting off with the more important question. Miss Porter, are you the outcast? Really? That's more important? If you are the outcast, you have already illegally compromised the town walls. You will no longer be subject to our laws. Also, have no right to be inside Safe Haven. As such, measures at our own discretion would be taken. That's a nice way to put it. Gotta remember that. Measures at our own discretion. Just vague enough so nobody will question that you have things under control. Not gonna bother answering the question? I mean, the question is pretty vague. Who do you even mean by the outcast? Some person living outside? But I'm inside again. There shouldn't even be anybody outside, right? How'd they get there? This is not true. You're actually going to admit it? Surprising. A few decades ago, a removal of a woman from Safe Haven was necessary for our safety. Some nice safety you have there. Is it possible that you are that woman? Is it? Wouldn't I be older? I mean, you are 26, and there are a lot of people who have aged quite significantly. Orpheus is 104, and looking like he's 30. Great Guardian is 387, and looking like he's 60. She was a girl at the time. However, that was almost 7 decades ago. If she was still a young girl, she would not have had the proper medical treatment yet. Yep, so it can't be me. Witness, I did not ask you to provide arguments for or against being the outcast. I asked you to simply answer the question. Are you the outcast, yes or no? Oh, I didn't know you wanted a simple yes or no. I'm a little nervous, you know. What if my distracted way of life has made me feel like an outcast too? And I answered truthfully, but I'm not actually the outcast from the outside, oh. You're not getting around answering this one, Talia. Stop making it sound like you don't know how this one will go. You've seen Quick Return yourself. True enough. Quick Return. That's Miss Porter's spell, right? I hope you're not so lazy with the facts you don't see the relevance. The outcast became an outcast because she was different. Forming no apparent spell, people feared her until she was removed from town. Funny how that works, fearing the most harmless person just because she's different.
Objection!
I do not care for your reassurances. Are you that outcast or no? If what you say means you have indeed no reason to lie, there should be nothing to fear. It's funny how you insist on it, even though it's so very obvious. You really need to learn trusting other things than your truthful melody. Relying too much on that is what got you into that mess earlier, isn't it? Yeah. Alright, I'll answer. No need for that. No need for contempt of court. I am not the outcast. There. Happy? Really? Do I look like an old woman to you? It's a truthful answer, it appears. I am tempted to hold you in contempt of court regardless. She answered the question in the end, so let's just worry about the other thing. We've just made it abundantly clear that this crime required an accomplice. Yes, a second inquiry is in order. Miss Porter, are you an accomplice to this murder? That's rude. What if I feel like an accomplice after causing that mess on the witness stand? Nice excuse. Don't give us another round of arguments, please. You know what? No. You don't even have a solid case against me anymore if I'm not the outcast. My argument is valid. I might feel like an accomplice even if it's not true. Remember how the defendant stated he is a killer, and it turned out to be false? You couldn't use it against me anyway. I refuse to answer the question. Well, I mean, she's got a point. Miss Porter, I think we've caught someone who knows she'd have to lie. You have just made matters infinitely more difficult for yourself. I figured there was more to it. I stand by what I said. If this hall truly proclaims itself to be a court of law, you need evidence. As I just said, my word alone won't turn into evidence. Whether it would be truth or a lie, we've seen how that could work out. I think the defense's theory would be sufficient in this case. That theory hinges on me being the outcast, doesn't it? And does it? It doesn't really. Too convenient for you two to just show up You two to show up just at the right time. Maybe Mr. Cat had a friend that could actually predict the future. Look, I've confirmed the important bit. If you can accuse anyone, then it's of being the outcast. Because what if Mr. Cat wasn't working together with them? What about this corpse then? I guess then this whole switch with someone inside town could not have happened. What would that say about the identity of this corpse? Well, I guess they'd have to be the outcast after all, considering nobody else is missing. If there's another extra person... Oh, that's gonna get us in trouble. There is not. That girl 7 decades ago was the only one who was permanently removed from my safe haven. So, Linus, got evidence that there's another extra person outside? Maybe a vampire or something. They might have survived out there for pretty long. How dare you hide your lies behind such an argument? You're the one refusing to answer truthfully. Don't you demand proof of your guilt? Guilty until proven innocent. Or innocent until proven guilty. Honestly, I'm not sure how you guys actually operate there. Maybe this administration prefers to just arrest anybody remotely problematic. Well, most people are pretty gullible. But at least the rumors would be confirmed that if you arrest me based on your opinion of me alone. So really, do it. Send them a clear message for once. Do them the favor. Be assured, there will be no arrest without evidence. But Your Honor, Mr. Justice, she is not an outcast, if your truthful melody is to be trusted. Therefore she is a citizen of Safe Haven, and to be treated accordingly. Your Honor, she might know what really happened 3 months ago. Even if she is an accomplice, that is very unlikely. Culprit has already been caught, and he was without information. A mere accomplice is unlikely to be in possession of more knowledge than a culprit. There are more important criminals. We are required to focus on them. So the moment we have a culprit to blame, you stop caring. Yeah, I can actually say that. Not to the Great Guardian. Yeah, didn't. You call me here because you wanted to know what really happened. Are you dissatisfied, Mr. Sky? My greatest concern always was the prevention of a punishment of an innocent citizen. Which is why you were summoned to the defense of Nils Gickham in the first place. This is more important than the arrest of every last criminal. The innocent are entitled to safety from wrong judgment. But will they really feel safe if criminals just get away with it? And Any criminal that is undoubtedly proven to be one is arrested. If there is no decisive proof, however, labeling a citizen a criminal is not to be done. Alright, what if that person might not be a citizen? It is my understanding that it was just proven she is not an outcast. That's debatable. She can argue truthful melody would not be decisive for proving she's an accomplice. Well, then I can claim it's not decisive for proving she's the outcast in return. You should really leave returning favors to me. What's this supposed to be? She stated she's not the outcast. I'm not sure how you can doubt that. Who knows? Maybe she just doesn't feel like the outcast. We had a whole trial where the culprit proclaimed they're innocent. That doesn't mean they are. I'm not sure it's going to be that easy. You cannot dismiss truthful melody like that. With accomplices, it's true the definition of the word may be a little ambiguous and there's room for getting tricked. Albeit that is already ridiculous. The witness knows full well what we're talking about. But with whether or not you're a specific individual, even more unlikely, you can't just feel like another person. Without some spell that can't possibly exist. You can't trick someone into thinking there's someone else. You're funny, Linus. By now you should have learned your lesson. You can't win against the porter. She always gets away. I can only keep trying. At least try with something you know isn't complete nonsense. I'm not the outcast. My word alone should be enough for that. But just for you, Linus, I'll also go over how you actually proved that earlier. You claimed I used my spell to trick Mr. Maxwell into going west, remember? Well, the outcast doesn't have any spells. Unless you somehow have another explanation for that. You should just stop. This is quite enough back and forth. Miss Porter is not to be accused without more compelling evidence. Very well, Your Honor. Knew he wouldn't let you do it. Though I guess this might mean I'll be followed by some cops for a while. Might be fun. Let's see if they can keep up. Damn it. She's clearly hiding something. She always is. This trial was concluded several minutes ago. There is much to be done. More time is not to be wasted for the perusal of your arbitrary accusations. If it has ever turned into something more compelling, the prosecution's report is to be delivered to my chambers. It's going to end the trial. Damn it, I was so close to cornering her. Talia's definitely keeping something important from me here. She always is. Damn it, is this really all I could have done? She knew the Great Guardian would be compelled to end it here. Here is a culprit he can hold responsible for this murder and for the incident 3 months ago. And he's not willing to risk the people's opinion of his integrity and fairness. So thus I stick with the rules. There's just no way to persuade him to allow this unofficial accusation to proceed. I don't get it. What are you doing? After the verdict, you're supposed to go celebrate. It's really not that hard. This isn't over yet. She's going to just run away with the truth. The truth is about why that incident happened. The incident where your father... Daddy... There's nothing I can do anymore. I can't force the trial to keep going. There isn't even a trial to prolong anymore. It's already ended. There might still be a way. If there is, better quickly tell me. There's one secret technique some lawyers use as a last resort. No time for the technical details. They're about to unlock the door. Gotcha. Just follow my lead and repeat after me. Don't make me say anything crazy. The Great Court is adjourned. Not yet, Your Honor. Mr. Sky, my patience is at his limit. Further arguments will not be permitted. There's still something the defense has the right to do. Witness just gave a closing argument on the stand. We're doing the... Okay. These conclusions are essentially new testimony. Therefore, I have the right, by law, to cross-examine them. This would be true if this was still a trial. If the trial is already concluded... It's true that the Great Guardian passed down the verdict a while ago. He also declared that court is adjourned. True, but I objected to that statement. Since he allowed my objection to pass, we can assume he rescinded the adjournment. The Great Guardian is a man of rules. Now, this might work as long as there's room for debate whether they have been abided by. This trial is therefore still ongoing, and I have the right to a rebuttal. I do not appreciate making further assumptions, Mr. Linus Sky. Apologies, Your Honor. That's what I've been going with during these last couple minutes. I suppose in the eyes of the law, he technically has some legitimacy to it. Disregarding the defense's right to cross-examine the witness might be unwise, Your Honor. Assistance appreciated. There will not be another cross-examination. Oh! It's clear that no new information will be discovered by such means. However, a defense will be granted a chance for reply to the witness's argument. What? No way. It's not very effective? Guess we've stalled this out for too long for that to work. Here we go. It looks like we're still getting a chance, at least. Furthermore, only a quick reply will be tolerated. Serious matters have to be attended to. This is just a triviality, after all. Between us, Linus. He's quite the hypocrite, don't you think? Witness! Hold your tongue! His Honor is doing this out of respect for your rights. Yeah, right. What beautiful freedom we live in. I'm really not in the mood for that, Talia. This is the worst time to be this difficult. Regardless of my own feelings about this witness, His Honor's will is clear. We have been granted one chance to demonstrate why we should be concerned about this witness. Since she is not the outcast, this should prove to be quite the task. However, this trial has indeed dragged on for far too long. As such, should your reply fail to be swift, I'm afraid this is where we will have to end it. And then Talia is just going to vanish for months again. Well, even if I caught her, she'd probably just lie. If there's somehow another trial, I won't be part of it anymore. Depending on what is revealed, the truth might be kept forever from anyone outside the palace. Can't let that happen. Not for this. You want me to tell you why you should not dismiss this witness just yet? Alright, I'll do it. Hell yeah! Okay, take this over carefully. Can't afford any mistakes. Not anymore. I waste too much time giving no good reply. This trial will end. Talia's strongest argument is what she's just stated to the court. I am not the outcast. As long as that stands, things will end here. I'm not entirely sure what I can do about this, but focus. There must still be a way to make this work. Somehow. And I don't have much to work with here, but something feels off about Talia's behavior. She acted kind of suspiciously just now. I wonder just what could have been so suspicious about it that would make a difference here. Okay, her behavior before the answer itself, her behavior after the answer. The answer itself, I am not the outcast. I feel like her behavior before the answer was the problem. Because she sure stalled us a bit before stating it, didn't she? Yeah, she almost got nailed for contempt of court. She could actually just say it's wrong right away. Why be a bother? Granted, it's like her to do this sort of thing, but what she said could have influenced her what her answer meant. She went on a rant about how it's silly to think she'd be 70 years old. This is important. Before that, we hadn't really specified what we meant by the outcast. Oh. You can't deceive truthful melody by using wordplay. By specifying exactly what outcast we're talking about, it could have definitely made a difference. Miss Porter, why were you so insistent on making this about the outcast from 70 years ago? Did I? Well, isn't that the obvious thing to assume? She does have a point. That is the only instance of someone being banished from Safe Haven. True, but it kind of changed the meaning of her answer. I mean, she only denied being that outcast specifically. I mean, she might not have been able to reply truthfully to a more vague definition. Which means we'd have to justify why there would be another outcast. Well, it's clear we're referring to someone that's not permitted inside town, so you have to be careful what would make sense here. There are several constraints and information to consider. Could it mean there's an alternate possibility that hasn't been denied? Well, this one's obvious. She's a second outcast, or she's the vampire. I'm putting a safe here just in case she's the vampire would give us a bad ending. But she's the second outcast. Obvious thing that comes to mind is a second outcast. As in, not that outcast specifically, but another one. Much more likely anyway, since it's impossible that one survived for so long out there. Here's what I think. She might have tried to mislead us. Sure, she's not that outcast, but she might still be one. Really, Linus? Are you serious?
Objection!
Impossible! How could you justify the existence of such a thing? There are no records of another outcast. We would have known if one of our citizens went missing. Well, she took issue with the fact that she wasn't 70, 80 years old, but... and then she's only 20, in her 20s. So she'd have to be... the daughter of the outcast? As has been mentioned several times, the original outcast was a woman, so it wouldn't be impossible. Close count is kept of the total number of citizens, dead or alive. Furthermore, everybody that ever left through the gate has returned. Forget your explanation about how she would have gotten back into town. You would have to explain how she was thrown out of town without our knowledge. That sounds pretty impossible. Well, Linus? I can see it in your eyes. You have no idea what you're doing either. I have no idea what you're doing, but... think. Has to be a way. How did she leave? Was made to leave Safe Haven. An outcast can, by definition, not have a spell. Otherwise, they could just walk right back in. Let's assume Talia herself has no spell. Even if I know... no, let's just assume it for now. Let's go over the parameters again. Every citizen is a number in the system, dead or alive. So if you're alive for more than a few months inside, the administration would definitely be aware of your existence. Which means they'd also know if you suddenly vanished. You also need to consider the administration's routine examinations. Every citizen is checked for the existence of a spell at 12 years of age. There's also the special medical treatment everyone receives at 20 years of age. During one of those, someone without a spell would have been discovered. Probably have been discovered. There's someone living inside for that long without getting checked. They'd have started looking for them. Furthermore, nobody had just walked out of the gate and never returned. Not to mention that if you could just walk through the gate, you're not exactly an outcast. The number of citizens has stayed consistent for pretty much all time. All human bodies are accounted for. I figured out a trick for the incident 3 months ago. That was about getting it back inside the place. Doesn't explain how anyone could still exist outside the town in the first place. You need to find a way for how this went on under the radar. But is it even impossible to trick this system? Maybe you're probably not. Probably not. Can't think of a way. It's a perfectly sealed area. There's just no room for escape without notice. If I want to make this work, I think of a possibility that doesn't require her to escape. Of course, that's pretty ridiculous. Can't just go, she walked in from some other town. Nobody has gotten here from any other place for more than 400 years. It's too unlikely. Which leaves... what would it even leave? For the first time, we're going to show off these options. There's no signs of any other town on any map. Don't know what good evidence would do at this point, but... Didn't I just bring this up? Where the whole focus on the age part, her not being 70, she was born outside. That's gotta be it, right? Well, if you can't get out from inside town, and the only way to be outside is to be born there in the first place. Of course, this begs the obvious question. How? She hopefully didn't just spring into existence out of nowhere. Immaculate conception. Parents must have come from somewhere. So, who could have given birth to her? Well, the outcast. This is very much possible. There's one more thing Miss Porter will have to deny. It's true that no second outcast could have originated from inside Safe Haven. The same cannot be said for outside Safe Haven. Outside? Yes, Miss Porter might not have been born and then thrown out. She might have been born and raised outside of Safe Haven. Oh boy.
Objection!
It's outrageous! Born and raised outside, in that wasteland? There is nobody outside who could have done such a thing.
Objection!
This chorded music has really grown on me. This case. We have already confirmed that such a person did in fact exist. The outcast. The original one. She was cast out as a young girl, but if she survived long enough, it's very much possible she would have still been alive to give birth to Miss Porter.
Objection!
Surviving for that long outside? And raising a child? Your outcast must have been quite the strong woman. And where exactly would the father have come from? Obviously, it's unthinkable she left Safe Haven already pregnant. She was far too young for that. And so is the Miss Porter we see here. There is no problem with that. It's true that it's impossible for someone to permanently leave Safe Haven without being noticed. But briefly, no problem at all. Father could have easily been someone from inside town, and you wouldn't have known. Inconceivable. Needless to say, the likelihood that the child of the outcast would also have no spell. I can't make any certain statements here, but it's more likely that it happening elsewhere. So you're saying I have no spell? After all, if I had one, I could have walked right in. But your story went something like, the incident 3 months ago happened so the outcast could infiltrate, right? Well, yes. In order for this to work, that would have to be the case. Alright, then answer me one question. Contradict your own words from before. How does this make sense? You yourself suggested that I used my spell to trick Mr. Maxwell. If that isn't true, doesn't the entire case fall apart? You should like asking lots of questions instead of making definite statements. Because I don't have to. You've already contradicted yourself. If you can't explain it without my spell, then how can you still go with this story? If I remember correctly, I suggested you teleported Mr. Maxwell to go west instead of east. That way he'd have lost his sense of direction without really noticing. I want to go with this. I'll have to find another explanation that denies her using a spell. Is there something that has come up before that I can use for this? Oh, fucking short-term memory loss. There's another way to explain that. With this, you could have tricked Mr. Maxwell into going west. No spells required. Faking spells by just poisoning people and making them forget shit. Poor Mr. Maxwell. Being subjected to this much poison must have played tricks with his mind. Now if the same one was injected while he was heading east that night, all he had to do was move his body while he was unconscious. He would have found it weird when he had to get up. Probably not thought much more of it. Seriously? That kind of trick? Is it time to stop this, Linus? Are you seriously going to accuse me of this? I will not stop until you say what you know. You're almost sounding like you don't truly believe in your accusation. Which isn't surprising considering its utter absurdity. I will maintain the accusation. Miss Porter is the outcast's daughter, and does, in fact, not possess a spell. Unless she states the truth to the court, this possibility cannot be ignored. You think I'll bother with this?
Objection!
Everything okay? Are you well, Mr. Justice? It's quite alright. Mr. Sky, you just... What? Did we just lie? Uh-oh. You just lied to the court, did you not? Oh my, look at that. I think that finally makes you a true lawyer. Oh shit. You lied? Guess I can only keep this bluff going for so long without anyone noticing. It's because he knows what he just said can't be right. What is an offense's lie? When Mr. Sky asserted that Miss Porter does not have a spell, he knew. He knew it wasn't true. Well, fuck. Mr. Sky, what do you have to say in your defense? Well, all you can do is own up to it now. Come on, Linus. Is this where it ends? I won't deny it. I've seen Quick Return. Miss Porter definitely has a spell. Which means my theory doesn't work. There you go. Who's the stubborn one now? Who insisted on dragging this out? Was it me? Or was it you, who knew full well it wouldn't go anywhere? How'd you tell them the other thing, too? You know, 3 months, contradiction? Right. My theory Miss Porter wouldn't have been in town until 3 months ago. However, while she isn't the most available person, she's definitely been around in town before that. I've met her. And there you go. I may not be the most social person, but there are still enough people that know what I look like. My name's Talia Porter. You think I'm some imposter? Mr. Sky, not only have you needed to drag this trial out for nothing, now you have the audacity to insult these halls with lies? After your achievements earlier, I thought better of you, but it seems that I was mistaken. Well, shit, there goes all of our goodwill. What a mess. I'm in a bit of a tough spot right now. Understatement of the day. It's true that I knew it couldn't be right, but I had a hunch. Did I really tell them that? My brain told me this is all nonsense. I still have this strange hunch that I got somewhere here. If it's so obviously wrong, why don't you just deny it, Miss Porter? That's my problem here. You're acting different from usual today. And if I know it can't be right, you just appeal to that logic instead of straight up stating it. And then there's all the stuff you were hiding or lying about. Just way too suspicious to amount to nothing. Is that your argument? You found my actions suspicious. Oh, that won't do. It doesn't prove I'm some daughter of the outcast. Stop staring at my face like that. I swear it's not a mask. This is my face. I've always looked like this. Never did any shape-shifting. Happy? How about demonstrating your spell to us instead? Ah, that's cheating. Don't you think that'd be too easy now, Linus? You've provided no plausible basis to accuse me. To have me reveal anything about my spell, you need some actual proof casting doubt on it. That's quite enough for the two of you. It's clear now that the defense's theory can under no circumstances hold. Mr. Sky himself admitted it just now. He has been acquainted with Miss Porter for more than 3 months. It's clear that she was born and raised inside, and there are sources that could attest to this. I've heard the name Porter before. I'm sure there are records in our family registers, too. It's a well-established family of the Central District, you know. They never cared about what I was doing, but I can guarantee you they'd vouch for me. As such, her being any sort of infiltrator is absolutely ludicrous. If the defense wishes a continuation of this trial, their next words are recommended to be chosen wisely. Time to throw the towel in? Huh. As if that's a question at this point. I know something's up with Talia. This isn't how she usually acts. She's hiding something big. My theory is on the right track, or she wouldn't keep being this dodgy. All that's left is to figure out how that works. Showdown time! I have no idea what's going on anymore, but that won't stop me. In order for my theory to still work, Miss Porter would need to not have a spell. I know this can't be right, but what if I'm mistaken about something here? What kind of assumption I've been making? First thing to figure out is whether I want to keep claiming Talia is the outcast. If I want to claim there are 2 Talias, one of which is the outcast. I think there's a piece of evidence that heavily points toward one of these things. It could help me figure out if the Talia I know and the outcast are the same person or not. A report about the outcast, right? Yes, this report. First of all, why burn it? Clearly to hide any sort of connection to the outcast. If she was the real outcast all along, it makes no sense to even write this report. Unless she was planning to use it to misdirect people. But she clearly did, because it was burned. There's also the victim's investigation with the word visits. Clearly he knew something about Talia visiting the outcast, which she did to write her report. Now those actions seem to serve no purpose if she's the outcast herself. The only way this makes sense is that this isn't the Talia Porter I know. She couldn't be some kind of imposter, could she? It would explain a lot, but... there's too obvious a problem here. Her voice, her face, everything about her is very much like the Porter I know. Has she acted a little different recently? Hard to say. I might just be imagining things now. Either way, if she isn't Talia, her disguise is pretty much as perfect as it gets. And she already confirmed it isn't some kind of disguise. Which is impossible. She couldn't happen to have exactly the same look. Great. Another complete impossibility I've decided to fight against. Okay, so if Talia, whoever this is, never changed her appearance, how might it still be possible she looked exactly the same? Okay, our choices. Real Talia changed her appearance, they're twins, or Talia with a split personality. I mean, sure, maybe they're twins. Twins? Now that's an option. Except then we need another infiltration. I'm also not sure if I buy that one of them didn't have a spell, but the other one did. That'd be rather convenient luck. Not sure if a child of the outcast could even have a spell. For it to not cause any suspicions, the mother would have had to give one child away rather early. Otherwise, the age would not have matched up when the count of citizens increased. Guess she'd have given it to the Porter family then. Somehow. Except she'd have have to have had... She'd have had to have known somehow which of her twin children would develop spell abilities. Nope, not possible. Those aren't formed that early on. It's likely that all this was planned long in advance. This clearly isn't how it could have worked. Oh shit. Changed her... Real Talia changed her appearance. If she never changed her appearance to fit the real Talia, then the real Talia must have switched her appearance to fit her. Of course, this might not have happened voluntarily. If done long ago, people might have forgotten about her sudden change in looks. I can't just claim this. How would she change her appearance? One thing I can think of are spells, but I can't just make one up. I know any spell that could completely change a person's appearance? No. Can't think of anything. Then, how do I explain the original Talia looking like this? If it wasn't a mere manual manipulation of appearance, then we'll need some sort of clone, I guess. Something based on Talia's current appearance. Can't be serious. Of all the things. It can't be what I'm thinking of, so... Assuming there aren't any extraordinary scientists around, it must have been a spell. Do I know a spell that, if creatively used, could create a copy of a person? Wait... The only one it could be. Yeah. Well, maybe. None of these seem to be specifically for creating duplicates, though. Maybe there is one that could turn one into two. It's gotta be. Damn, this can't be it. Oh, okay. Nope, it's not that, then. I thought it was Dr. Farron's. His ability to change... Oh, but... Right, the con, it's inanimate only. 1 into 2. That's gotta be Karen Cat, right? Mr. Cat was clearly in on whatever was going on here, but... Could his spell really be used to turn one human into 2? By the ability alone, he can split anything. I already know spells can go against some laws of legality, including him splitting off a wound. Given the right circumstances, a cell can split into 2, if splitting is reduced to the most basic part. It is an option I have to consider. They've clearly intentionally gone to absurd lengths to not get caught. I do have to wonder if it might not be possible that you tricked everyone. It's in fact possible that this Miss Porter can perfectly assume the role of the other, provided all of this was set in effect a long time ago. I get the feeling you're going to say another absurd thing. Are you going to stop me? That will depend. Well, so basically, this Miss Porter confirmed the following things. Her name has always been Miss Porter, and she has never drastically changed her appearance. That leaves but one option. Somebody else's appearance got changed. The real Miss Porter. The real one? Who gets to decide that? What you're saying, it'd be her assuming my appearance. Who's the faker now? You're the faker. Right, well, must have started with your mother. Must have intentionally named you after another child, for the purpose of some plan. That would certainly be a plan that started quite a while ago. However, you're dodging the real question. How would they look identical? It probably comes down to someone who was clearly deeply involved in all of this. Mr. Cat, their spell-using accomplice, simply split the outcast's child into two. Second child then became the appearance of the original Miss Porter.
Objection!
Okay, I'm somewhat lost. Wait, now hold on a second there. Splitting a child into two? That would kill them! Not necessarily. I'm not talking the classic way of dividing it. Object. Yes, the most straightforward thing you think of when you hear split. It's putting a crack in something. Or splitting a large object into two small objects. There are other ways you can split something. Depending on his level of control, he might be able to split at a molecular level. As such, he could in theory turn a high-density object into two low-density objects, while retaining shape and size. And you're saying they attempted that with a human body? They probably made sure it worked first by experimenting. Bones and organs would be weakened, but could probably keep functioning. Probably blood and other vital nutrients, but those could be prepared. The body would be weakened, but could likely recover over time.
Objection!
I cannot claim to fully understand the biology behind this, but while this seems like it might be possible for most of the human body, I strongly doubt this would be feasible with our brains. Yeah, brains are always the problematic organ. Moving half of its mass probably wouldn't be a good idea. The damage would be permanent. Which means... It obviously means your theory is nonsense! Your copy couldn't possibly be alive. Even your science wouldn't change that. Even if it was somehow to work, you could not create nor copy a spell. Where did Quick Return come from if this was a mere copy? Think. If copying the spell or brain is impossible, all this would do is create an empty human shell. Experiment. We have a clone without a brain. The goal is to change the appearance of the original Talia. Creating a spell is impossible, so she must have existed. With Mr. Cat's spell, chances are they could even, well, get what they need out of her body. It would all be pointless. The final problem is something with no solution. I couldn't tie her brain to a different body. There's no safe way to do that. Or is there?